sure that evolution would have produced us. And if he didn't produce us, isn't our species, Homo sapiens, nothing more than, as Gould put it, a tiny twig on an improbable branch of a contingent limb on a fortunate tree? Surely we could not be both the products of evolution and the apples of God's eye? Well, in fact, we could. Miller is so fun. The great problem posed by evolution's indeterminacy is more apparent than real. To appreciate this, let's step back from the specific issue of evolution and ask a more basic question. Is chance real? Let's analyze chance. I love how he does this. Are there events in nature whose outcome are genuinely uncertain? Science would say, oh yeah. No question. We don't have to aim photons through diffraction slits to confirm the reality of chance, however. A state lottery properly conducted is genuinely a chance event. We speak of chance encounters and the luck of the draw, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. A tornado destroys houses on one side of the street and leaves other houses completely untouched. One soldier survives a bombardment, but another is killed by the very shrapnel of the bomb. The fragments of an airplane shattered by a bomb crash down upon a handful of people. Some are killed, some aren't. Are all these events matters of chance? In ordinary terms, of course. There's a reason for the wry saying that it's better to be lucky than to be good. For a person who believes in God, how do such chance events fit into the scheme of things? One might say that chance is an illusion. That actually everything is controlled in the hand of God. You're going to win the megabucks tonight if God wants you to. And if he doesn't, you might just as well not buy the ticket. When a stray bullet's randomly fired into a crowd, God decides who's going to get hit and who's not. Who will survive and who dies. When the biggest hurricane of the year hits Key West and not Miami, it had to be God's will. You could, I suppose, cast the Almighty in this guise, make him a cosmic tyrant, a grand puppeteer pulling every string at once when nothing would be left to chance, but most people would find this picture of God to be quite disturbing. Don't you think? I certainly do. Putting God in charge of every trip, of every stumble in our daily lives, does not take chance out of the picture. Or it does take chance out of the picture, if God is completely involved. But what's the price? What is the price, you see? God is now personally responsible for falling limbs that kills infants in baby cribs. God is responsible for your daughter's illness and her death. God is responsible for the school bus full of children slipping off the icy road and going down the cavern and killing 66 of them. Is that what you want? A different view, often held by the Western religions, is that chance events are genuine because the physical world has an existence independent of God's will. When you and I flip a coin to decide who gets to eat that last piece of pizza, the outcome is not known in advance. Now, a different view, one that is held widely by the Western religions, is that chance events are actually genuine because the physical world has an existence that is actually independent of God's will. That's interesting, isn't it? When you and I flip a coin, boink, to decide who gets the last piece of pizza, God doesn't care about that kind of an outcome. That is a chance event. Chance is not only consistent with the idea of a God, it's the only way. It is the only way. Chance now. We're talking about chance. This is the only way that a truly independent physical reality can exist. independent of God's will. Even deeply religious people can fully appreciate the role that chance can play in human history. And he goes through several different aspects of human history, different events happened. That's what makes the What If books so fun to read. What if Kennedy would have done something different than he did? What if Barack Obama would have lost this election? What would have happened if George Washington, wouldn't have won the war? You see, what would have happened if the burning bush never really did happen in Israel's history? How would that have changed the course of history, you see? And the idea is retreat far enough into the past and you will find that individual choices and chance events of seemingly minuscule importance actually have reversed the tides of history. What if Napoleon wouldn't have died when he did, but lived another 10 years? What if I would have decided never to start making these videos? How would that have made all of your viewers' lives different? See what I mean? These are chance events. The same is certainly true of biological history. A theme explored elegantly in Gould's book, Wonderful Life. And then he goes through the idea of chance events occurring in the history of the evolution of life. The question is, as time goes by in the historical process, human or biological contingency casts smaller and smaller events, many governed by chance, into fate's most important roles. Does this leave no room for God, though? Does this mean, as Gould asserts, that we cannot view our species as the handiwork of the Creator? Not at all. Heavens, no. Let's make it personal. I'm on page 235, by the way, of Miller's book, Finding Darwin's God. Just about every preacher I've had the patience to listen to has eventually said that God has a plan for each and every one of us. That God wanted you and me to exist. That God knew us and loved us even before we were born. That idea is consonant with all of the great Western religions. Should I be required to reject it if it can be shown that chance plays a role in making me who I am? Chance did, of course. We are a biological product of evolution. I'm perfectly well aware, he says, that important aspects of the sorting of chromosomes, a process called meiosis, that takes place when reproductive cells are formed, are random matters of genuine blind chance. That's true. In our formation. That means that the person who I am, the selection of genes from a mom and dad, were determined by physical characteristics that was very much a matter of chance. For that matter, so was the fact that my parents ever met, and got married, and had kids. Since chance, and for that matter free will, played such an important role in bringing me to life, does that mean that I cannot view my own existence as part of God's plan? Of course not. Any clergyman very much in the Christian tradition would caution me that God's purposes does not always submit to human analysis. God means are beyond our ability to fathom, and just because events seem to have ordinary causes, or they seem to be the result of chance, this does not mean that they are not part of that divine plan. Are you getting this? This astounded me. His idea here is, it just resonates with me. I like this very much. This is the reason why no religious person would take issue with the geneticist's assertion that the sorting of chromosomes in meiosis is random. Of course it is. Every bit as random as the flipping of a coin, or the impact of a meteor.